Orion looked at Lillian's fake crying face, and then she remembered an old memory in which Lillian said, "The truth is I got burned by hot tea." Damien came forward and said, "Orion, did you torment Lillian again?" Orion said, "You always believe her words over mine, but I did not do anything." Damien asked, "Are you saying that Lillian lied? Then how will you explain the burn on her wrist?" Orion asked, "Did you even see it?" Damien said, "What?" She again asked, "Did you see if there really is a wound underneath the bandage with your own 2 eyes?" And then Damien came forward and slapped her. At the current time she was thinking that, I suddenly remembered that day, when Damien hit me for the first time. And on the other side Lillian was giggling while maintaining the fake crying face. After some time Lillian said, "I should introduce myself formally. My name is Lillian Grace." The people who surrounded her said, "I did not know the Grace family had such a beautiful young lady." One of them asked, "Is your arm okay now?" She replied, "Yes, I was startled at first, but I am okay now." The noblemen were smiling while looking at her. With a blushy face and shyness, Lillian said, "I resemble the lost daughter of Viscountess Grace, and I look like the daughter who lost when she was young. So I was adopted into the family." And then she looked at Cassadine and said, "That's why I understand the suspicious Lady Orion and the Marquis are subjected to. I know how sad it can be," and then she closed her eyes. Orion was looking at her and thinking that, indeed, this is how we are tied up to one another, to prevent any risk during such a social circle debut. But if that's the goal, why make such a fuss? And then suddenly Lillian said, "Oh, my fan have been dropped on the ground, heavens! I guess I was startled and dropped it earlier." She looked at Cassadine and asked, "If you don't mind, Marquis, could you please pick up my fan?" He was looking at Lillian's face. She said, "It's hard to bend over because of my dress." Orion was shocked after hearing all of this. She came to a conclusion that Lillian is aiming for Cassadine. She was clenching her clothes and thinking that, but why? I'm sure Lillian and Damien are together. Due to all of this she was standing silently, and Cassadine noticed it. With a smile Cassadine said, "I think I would like to give the chance to pick Lady Grace's fan, to that gentleman over there." With a blushy face the men came forward and picked the fan. He said, "Here you go, my lady, you are even prettier up close." However, with cold expression Lillian said, "Thank you." Cassadine looked at Orion and asked, "Can we go now, sister?" With a smile she said, "Sure." With a serious face Lillian was looking at him because she was not able to get the attention from Cassadine. Lady Christine was standing outside and someone said her name. She looked towards the person and found it was none other than Archduke Damien. In an anger she shouted, "Where the hell have you been?" Damien asked Christine, "Why are you here despite not being invited?" She shouted, "Why would I come? You were ignoring my letters. I am going to complain about this injustice." Damien smiled and asked, "You want to appeal to His Majesty?" "I told Count Christine that his family is not allowed to participate, but his daughter is short-sighted and is going against her father." She shouted, "How can you say that? My father was accused of treason after he trusted you. How can I stay still?" With a serious and scary face Damien asked, "Avly Christine, who you are so boldly shouting at right now?" After hearing this she was scared, and she went silent. Damien was looking at her with the same gaze. She was gritting her teeth and said, I am simply worried and anxious because of my father." Damien said, "On paper that mine is owned by the Christines. The one who is guilty of smuggling from the mine. And you are saying that I am an accomplice? Do you think anyone in that banquet hall will believe you?" She don't have anything to say to this because she was remembering the guest in the party, and she also know that no one will believe her. Damien said we should not be hasty. He put his hand on her shoulder and said, "You should know that I am the only one who is able to protect your family. And now is the time to act wisely." He came close to her and said, "If you trust me and hold on for a little longer, I promise I will appreciate the efforts of Count Christine." Lady Christine said all right. At the banquet hall the guests were standing around Cassidy and they were saying, "Marquise, you are this banquet's main character. I was worried because you did not appear yesterday." One of them said, "Lady Serica is also with us." That person asked, "We greeted each other once. Do you remember me, Marquise?" Cassidy smiled and said, "Of course I do." "And is this shipping business you talked about going well?" The person smiled and said, "Oh heavens, I'm so honored you even remembered that." Orion was looking at Cassidy and thinking that there is no sight of discomfort on Cassidy's face. He is just like a bright light that attracts everyone. And then suddenly someone opened the golden doors. Everyone was looking at the door, and the knights were announcing that His Majesty, the Emperor and the Crown Prince are entering. Both of them entered, and the prince noticed Orion. The prince was making some signs while looking at Orion. He wants to ask something from Orion. However, she was unable to understand it. He was trying to ask, "What are you doing?" Orion was thinking that, "Do you have something to say to me?" All of the guests bowed in front of both of them and said, "Greetings to the shining sun and the little son of the empire." The emperor said, "I am very impressed, you may rise." And with a smile he said, "It's the second day of the banquet. And I would like to express my gratitude to all distinguished guests who accepted the invitation." He moved forward his hand and said, "Marquise Cassadine Deus. This banquet is for the Marquise. So please enjoy it to your heart's content." Cassidy bowed in front of him and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Emperor said, "We also have another special guest today, and let me introduce her to you." That person was standing behind of him, and the Emperor said, "The another important guest is daughter of the King of Elsa, whom he deeply cherishes, Princess Bella." However, she was not looking happy. All nobles presented that were feeling attraction towards her. The Emperor said, "Thanks to the Imperial Knight's merit, Elsa is seeking to cement friendly relationship with Seville. Therefore, the princess was sent as a medium to form a marriage alliance. I bet that no man here can turn down such a pretty woman, no one." With a smile he said, "This is the symbol of friendship between Seville and Elsa. I wish to give this glorious opportunity to acquire such a pretty princess to Marquis Cassadine, who contributed the most out of everyone." With a serious face Cassadine was looking at them. After hearing this, Orion was faking the shocking expression. She was thinking that there needs to be just the right amount of surprise. While looking at the Emperor, she was thinking that, if Cassidy had not told me this in advance, that could have been very embarrassing in front of the Emperor. Because if that happened, I don't know what expression I would have made. The Emperor was looking at both Cassidy and Orion to find out about their relationship. Orion was thinking that what a glorious plan to turn both Cassidy and the princess into his pawns. The Crown Prince did not do such things when he had Cassidy as his confidant. The Emperor is truly wicked. And looking at him like that, it's similar to Damien. The Emperor said this should be a happy event, but it may also frustrate the ones close to you. He asked as his former family, "What do you think, Lady Orion?" She replied, "Of course I am." But then suddenly the prince came forward and said, "Please stop it, Your Majesty." The Emperor shouted, "You stand aside." The Crown Prince was not listening to him, and he was coming forward and asked, "Did not I always do what Your Majesty wanted?" He grabbed Orion's hand and said, "I can't understand Your Majesty's intentions at all. This is Orion, the one who saved my life, and I can't thank her enough for it. Do you feel better after creating such chaos? Orion was looking at him and thinking that no. Why would you say something like that in the middle of the banquet hall? The prince said, I clearly remember that the Marquis was given credit as a knight commander. So do you really need to keep him at your feet like that? The emperor shouted, Leon. Have you gone mad? What on earth are you talking about? With a serious look, the crown prince said, Yes, I have gone mad. I'm disgusted by your majesty's action. The emperor was shocked after hearing this, and then he went silent. But then suddenly someone started to laugh, and it was none other than Damien. All of them were looking at him, and Damien came forward. With a smile he said, The royal family, who must show dignity more than any other, are talking like that in public. Isn't that sweet? The prince looked at him and said, I hope the Archduke doesn't get involved. Damien put his hand on his shoulder and asked, How could I not? Ignoring the dislike you bear for me, aren't we still cousins? He was standing between Orion and the crown prince, and then suddenly Cassidon grabbed Orion's hand and he was looking at Damien very seriously. Damien said, however, It's rare to see siblings not related by blood but still being so close. If we are cousins, should not we help each other out? In an angry way, Orion was looking at Damien and thinking that, You crazy bastard. The emperor asked, Archduke, what do you mean? Please explain it to me. But then suddenly Orion interrupted them and asked, Archduke, why are you speaking like that for me and Cassidon? However, Damien said to the emperor that, Please forgive me, your majesty. I simply felt envious, so I could not help myself. There's nothing else to it. Cassidon asked, What reason would there be for your excellency to be jealous of me? Damien closed his eyes and asked, Isn't it inevitable to feel jealousy? Even though Lady Serica is not showing interest, I'm trying to stick close to the person I like. Cassidon was looking at with a cold expression. And the noble ladies presented there was shocked and surprised. They were thinking that, oh heavens, His Excellency has Lady Serica in his mind? Damien came close to Orion and said, That's why you should have held my hand when I asked you to. Orion was thinking that, why are you coming at me so casually? As if it doesn't matter what happens to your heart? I wonder if there is someone other than me who can heal him. But no, that's impossible. I even took the risk of showing him my healing power to prevent him from completely curing himself. With a smile, Orion asked, How can you describe our friendship like that, Your Grace? I'm sure that His Majesty and the rest will misunderstand. After saying this, Orion was thinking that, what on earth are you planning to do? And then suddenly the Crown Prince started to laugh. He came close to Damien and asked, Your Grace, shouldn't you confess in a more suitable place? Did not I tell you to think wisely before taking action? The Princess of Elsa and the person who came with her were hearing all of this, and they were standing silently. The Emperor said, with the big celebration coming up, I have been worried about many things. There are many who cover the Marquis, so it's best to get it straight. Even though she is a princess from Elsa, she has great line lineage and looks. There is not a better match for the Marquis to marry, which means the reason you are turning this offer down is because there's another lady in your heart, so you have to tell me who she is. Then I might reconsider this proposal. Cassidon was looking at him very seriously, but he did not say anything. Damien said, with all due respect, Your Majesty, isn't he the person you personally placed by your side? You should trust the Marquis. The Emperor said, It was you started to speak vow first, Your Grace. Damien smiled and said, Who would have guessed my personal jealousy would escalate things like that? I did not have the courage to face Lady Serica. Orion was looking at him in a confused state. But then suddenly Damien moved his hand forward and grabbed Orion's hand. He said, It's my mistake, so I should explain. While looking at her, he said, We kept our relationship secret for a while now. Forgive me for revealing it like this, my love." Both the emperor and the prince were shocked, and the ladies presented there were also surprised. However, Cassidy became very angry after hearing this. Orion also became angry. She was thinking that what is this bastard saying? Damien was thinking, that's it, the emperor is determined in assessing the relationship between you and Cassidy. And the current situation is no different than admitting it. Of course, your father would collapse and become stressed if that happened, and avoiding the emperor's eyes would become nearly impossible. So hold my hand and get rid of all these rumors. It's a very clear threat. He said my lover is a bit shy. Orion was thinking that, you are using this as an excuse to hold me forever once again, but the choice I'll make is different. She started to move forward and asked, what do you mean that we are lovers? She announced that I have never had that kind of relationship with Archduke Damien. After hearing this, Damien became serious. He was thinking that what is she saying? This was not the answer I am expecting. Cassidy was also looking at her. The emperor asked, do you mean that the Archduke lied? Orion came in front of the emperor and said, that's right. Damien closed his eyes and said, I don't get it. According to your words, I lied about our relationship to His Majesty. And also, after insulting me like this, are you admitting the scandal about you and your former brother? The noblemen presented there were murmuring and chit-chatting about it. One of them said, what in the world is going on? Another one said, who is telling the truth? The ladies were also talking about it. One of them said they were talking about friendship and love between the siblings earlier. Another woman said, however, there is no reason for the Archduke to lie about such things. Lady Lillian was looking and hearing all of this, but she was not saying anything. The emperor was looking at Orion. She said, Your Majesty, actually. But then suddenly Cassidy interrupted her and said, I will tell you about it. The one who I have feelings for is already present here. While looking at Orion, he said, I have had feelings for only one person since the beginning, and that's my sister. Orion was thinking that, Cassidy, why are you saying this in front of everyone? With a smile, Cassidy was looking at her, and then he closed his eyes and said, as I am saying these things for the first time, it was not easy for me to reveal this. But I would not hide it any longer. I have loved you for a long time. After hearing this, the emperor was shocked, and the crown prince became angry. Cassidy was coming close to her. She was thinking that, is he going to kiss me in front of everyone? So she said, wait. However, he did not kiss her, and in her ear he whispered, push me away. The emperor would not trust our words anymore, so just curse at me by saying that I'm a jerk. Who doesn't even know how to be grateful. While hugging her, he was whispering that, show them that only I am the one who has feelings for you, and that you don't feel the same as me. You must reject both me and Damien, who the emperor is wary of. Orion was thinking that Cassidy, so he's trying to put an end to this situation by taking all of the blame in front of the emperor. The whole empire will know about today's incident because of people's gossip, and Cassidy will be portrayed as a betrayer who dared to have feelings toward his family member, who took him when he was a slave. He will have to deal with the emperor all alone. Cassidy again whispered, you must do it. She was thinking that in that way I will be the only one who will be safe. She touched him, and while doing this she was thinking that, you are saying that I should push you. Who has been confessing to me so desperately? Away, that's something I have done a lot. And then she pushed him. Damien was looking at them, and the prince was shocked. Cassidy was smiling because he was thinking that it's good. Now she is not going to face any danger due to me. Orion said, Cassidy, how can you do such things in a public space like this? We were a family at some point. In her mind she was thinking that, I'm also only using you. I have never thought of you as my real family. The Emperor might take away your authorities from you. He might also monitor you more thoroughly. But you chose to sacrifice everything you have achieved so far, and you decided to choose me. That's why I don't want to be your weakness. She moved forward her hand and said, also, you have already left our family. She was thinking that the sincerity you showed to me was clearer than anything, and it shined brighter than any kind of treasure. And because you are like that, then I will say it. With a smile and blushy face she said, I love you more than anyone else. She put her hand on his cheek and said, I love you, romantically. She came close to her ear and whispered, I don't want to make you endure it alone. So please go along with what I want, just this once. With a sweaty face the crown prince was thinking that, Orion, what are you doing? Orion said, I am the one who brought Cassidon, the one who used to be a slave, into my family. It's an obvious thing for Cassidon, who used to live in a dangerous place, to fall in love with me. After experiencing warm feelings for the first time, however, it's not an obvious thing for me to fall in love with Cassidon. That is why, if you think of it as a disgraceful scandal, I am the one who is responsible. All of the guests present there were whispering and gossiping about it. The Emperor was looking stressed. Damien said, you have always taken your brother's side, even when he doesn't know how to be grateful towards his family. In a loud voice Damien told to the Emperor that, Orion is acting like this to protect Cassidon, your majesty. The Emperor shouted, stop. Everyone presented there went silent. The Emperor shouted, what kind of fuss is this inside an imperial banquet? I would not forgive anyone who is lying to me. Orion was looking at Damien and thinking that, Damien, maybe you thought that you got a hold of my weakness. But the choice that I will be making has already been decided. Orion said, since there are a lot of people here, I will come close to tell you the truth. She came close to the Emperor and said, the Archduke caught on to the fact that I am a healer. That is why he lied about such things, your majesty. The Emperor was shocked. He said, what? And then he looked at Damien. Orion was thinking that the wariness of the Emperor, which you had directed towards Cassidon to control him, it will be back towards you once again. Damien was confused. He was thinking that what did she say to him? But the Emperor did not say anything. After a pause for a moment he said, no, this is not something to talk about in this celebratory banquet. I think it would be better if we talk about it later calmly. And now for today, continue on enjoying the banquet. I will be back after taking a break for a while. When this fuss subsides, come inside the room for an audience immediately. And then he left. With a sweaty face, Orion was looking at him. And then Damien asked, I am curious about why you keep on choosing the difficult path, when you can just walk on an easy path. Orion asked, how can a difficult and an easy path be determined? It just differs according to how I accept it. Damien smiled and said, to me, you are such a difficult person to figure out. Orion said, you don't need to know about me? And then Cassidon came from behind of Orion and was holding her hand and said, please back off. After seeing it, Damien looked at the Princess of Elsa and said, what a fool. You should have been satisfied with the position of a princess that His Majesty assigned to you. Isn't it a great position for someone like you? Cassidon said, you are acting rude to the princess. And the princess did not said anything due to the anxiousness. Cassidon said, she's someone who crossed the borders all alone in such an unstable situation. The marriage talks are going on even without my or the princess' opinions. The princess was looking at Cassidon with a blushy face and thinking that he's talking for me. In a wavering voice she said, what should I do then? Cassidon said, I will take care of the talks about our marriage. After that it's all up to you. In a wavering voice she said, but they said that I have to take full care of the Marquis of the Empire. I only know that much so. Orion was looking at her and thinking that of course, she must be anxious because the princess is also here against her will. The knight commander came and he said, "None of the prince's attendants have been able to step a foot in this empire because His Majesty has not allowed it." Cassidan asked, "You mean not even a maid was allowed to accompany her?" Lumen replied, "She is being served by the maids of the imperial palace right now." After a pause for a moment, Cassidan said, "Now that she is someone who is not related to me, I can't give you any kind of response. I will talk about it to His Majesty." "I'm sorry, but Sir Lumen." The commander said, "Don't worry about it, Marquis. I will keep on escorting the princess." And then someone interrupted them and said, "So the rumors were true." After hearing this, both Cassidan and the commander looked at that person. And the person was none other than Damien. He said, "The rumors about you being close with Marquis. A guy who was just a slave before, now teaches swordsmanship to the commander of the knights." While looking at Cassidan, he said, "You are making the most of your victory in the tournament indeed." The commander was about to say something, but then he stopped and looked at Damien very fiercely. He turned away and looked at the princess and said, "Princess, let's go this way," and then they left. Orion said, "Archduke, stop it now, and don't come to find me anymore. I can't understand you anymore. Also, don't even mention anything about me and Cassidan anymore." With a serious look, Damien asked, "Are you sure that you would not regret what you are saying right now?" And then Orion holds Cassidan's hand, and with a bright smile she said, "I would not regret it." After seeing it, Damien became more angry. He was thinking that why this woman always slipped from my grasp, and always chose this slave over me. He controlled his anger and then he turned away. He said, "So you would not regret it." While going away he said, "There will come a time when you will regret this moment." And then he left the banquet. On the other side, Cassidan said, "Don't worry about it, Orion. I will protect you." And then someone said, "I will protect you too, Orion." Orion looked in the direction from where the voice came from, and the person standing there was the crown prince. The prince said, "I will protect you first. That's why you don't need to worry about anything." Cassidan was a bit angry. He said, "I will protect her." The prince replied, "It is not necessary. I will do so because I promised her." And then both of them were fighting, verbally. Cassidan said, "It's my task. I am going to protect her." The prince said, "What can a mere marquis do to the Archduke?" And then Orion was about to say something, so both of them looked at her. She was walking towards them and thinking that the fight begins now, but with a smile she was holding their hands and said, "Then I will also protect the two of you." In a low voice she said, "Because I am also a healer." She was smiling and thinking that the fact that I am not alone makes me feel reassured. On the other side, outside of the palace, Damien was sitting near the fountain. He was remembering the earlier conversation with Orion. And when she was holding Cassidan's hand, Damien was feeling pain in his chest. He said, "Shit, it's happening again." In his mind he was thinking that this heart disease, which I am sick of, and received as a punishment, the pain has started eating me up again already, after Orion stopped healing me. He was wondering that did I ever want to have control over someone this way? And then a conversation with his butler came in his mind. At that time his butler asked, "My lord, what do you mean? You want to talk with that woman once again? Why are you choosing the difficult way? It will definitely work if you use her family as an excuse." Damien replied, "The most important thing right now is Orion's will. And if I mess with her family right now, she will never agree to cooperate with healing." The butler said, "No way, this is the best and fastest way." "But why, my lord?" But then suddenly the butler realized something and said, "No way, did you start having feelings for that woman?" At the current time, Damien was thinking about it, and then he said bullshit. However, a woman came near him and said, "Hey, it's Lillian." She said, "I'm sorry, but you're Archduke Damien, right?" With a smile she said, "Hello, I saw you at the banquet. I am Lillian Grace." Damien was thinking that this is an ordinary woman who tried to get attention by using Avli Christine earlier in the banquet. Damien said, "If you are in need of a man, you better look for one in the banquet. I don't have any intention to fall over the obvious trick." After hearing this, she smiled and said, "I'm sorry, Archduke, but I'm not here because of such a reason. I'm here to have a conversation related to Lady Serica." Damien stood up and said, "If you want to talk about the incident which happened at the banquet, there is no need." He was walking away from her, but then suddenly Lillian asked, "You like Lady Serica, right?" In an anger, Damien stopped and looked at her. He asked, "Are you here to anger me?" She said, "I did not come here to get on your nerves, my lord. I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I'm Lady Serica's acquaintance. I was wondering if I could help you." Damien asked, "What do you actually want?" She was touching her hair and said, "It's simple. As everyone, I was also supporting the friendship between the siblings, as I had feelings for the Marquis. But because of the truth, I felt betrayed by Lady Serica. I used to think I was close with her." She sat down and said, "That's why I dared to guess that the Archduke and I have the same goal. So, don't you want to use me once?" That's all for today's video. If you want to know what happened next, then like and subscribe, Alchemy Animation YouTube channel.